Hi, my name is Mazina. I hope you're good. This is the first of the sabbatical series that we're doing over on Patreon. I'm very excited to be launching these. So we're going to do a video for every Sabbath. Equinoxes maybe. I observe them. I don't celebrate them so much. But maybe we can put that out to the people of Patreon. Would you like those to be covered as well? Let me know in a comment. But for now, we are focusing very much on the 4 fire festivals, 4 fire Sabbats that are very much celebrated and honoured and marked within the Celtic calendar. Now, we're starting with Samhain, which I think is very apt given that it is, of course, the Celtic New Year. It is a time of renewal, and what a lovely way to launch this series of videos. So how I'm going to do these is I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody what to do. What I'm going to do is say, take my hand, I'll guide you along. If you want to stop along the way and find out more about something, by all means go for it. We're going to look through a different range of resources and books as well, just to see what different authors' perspectives are on certain celebrations or certain times of the year. Maybe they might suggest things that you haven't heard before. Maybe there'll be something in there that really resonates with you that you haven't considered previously. I thought it would be nice to get a few different viewpoints so you don't just have what I have to say, but you have at least a variety to work off of. I think that's very important because your craft will never really be set in stone. It's very good to have a structure, it's very good to have a guide, but I guarantee you will not do the same thing consistently for years on end. There will always be tweaks and little things you add to it, things you take away, and that is all part of your growth, that's all part of your learning. And we don't really reach, I don't think we really reach any form of wisdom until, of course, we go into the afterlife and we evolve even further. But the beautiful thing about learning now and learning together, that's very much what I wanted the community to have. I wanted you to have this beautiful adaptability to your craft. So as you can probably tell, I have just washed my hair, and I thought, what a better way to do a Samhain video than to look very scary. So yeah, if the hair's going wild, I'm just saying that it's in the spirit of Halloween, all right? But so, Halloween, All Hallows Eve, that's kind of the new name for what we know as Samhain, and it is very much an Irish Gaelic festival. However, it does also have roots in Wales. There are also little tricklings of sort of historical traces of it in Scotland and Cornwall. So I think we can safely sort of agree that it is a very Celtic festival that we're looking at here, and one of great importance because we have the Celtic New Year, which is really what this is. It aligns with that very, very well. In terms of astrology, we're coming into Scorpio, and Scorpio is all about death and renewal. This embodies exactly what Samhain is all about. Now, when you choose to celebrate it is entirely up to you. You can, of course, go with 31st of October if that's what you want to do. The traditional Samhain day that's generally agreed upon is the 1st of November, but you can also go off of the first full moon in Scorpio in Taurus, which is the 5th of November this year, or bonfire night. So what an amazing way to make the fire festival last. Or you can just sort of go by feeling. You can be like, right, I think we're coming up to it now. I usually feel it the first few days of November. That first week for me, typically speaking, is when I feel that veil being at its thinnest. You may feel it earlier, you may feel it later. There have been some years where I felt it last week of October, and then as soon as November comes, I don't feel it. Sometimes it hasn't been till the 10th, the 11th, because we're in the middle of November, sorry. But it really does depend on your affinity, I guess, to the natural world and the seasons changing, and your spiritual connection to whatever gods or deities or universal energy that you work with. But we can kind of agree, if we want a little point to work on, it is November 1st. So I'm going to read you a little bit from my book first, what I wrote about Samhain. This book is quite a few years old now, and what's interesting is reading it, I realised how much my craft has changed. I'm very proud of it though. It is a good book for beginners, so if you're not too sure about where you're kind of going with anything, my book An Introduction to Magic is available on Amazon. I may have a couple of signed copies here. Just get in touch if you want one. So typically Samhain is kind of the date that all spiritual people wait for. It's our time, it's our jam. Most people want Christmas, we want Halloween. And if you celebrated it as a child and kind of counted down the months to Halloween like I did, seriously, I was all about this. More than my birthday, I wanted Halloween. Then this Sabbath is always going to hold a very special place in your heart if it's something that's always been in your life, even if it has been as simple as putting a black bin bag on, a plastic witch's hat, and going out and getting some lollipops from people. Halloween has a real community spirit to it, and really, when we look at our modern calendar, there are very few dates now that encourage people to actually engage with their community, and Halloween is one of them. It has declined, I've found, in the last few years, but it's still there. People still, go out and they take their children out trick-or-treating, they go pumpkin picking, or really, if you want to get traditional, it should be a turnip. But there is still that feeling of people coming together there, which I think is very, very important. So at this time, you do have the veil between the worlds. It is thinning, as I mentioned earlier, and you can kind of feel that energy drawing closer. You can feel that there is a change afoot in the air, and it is a very unique feeling to this Sabbath, I have found. Things just feel more perceptive. You feel more aware of what's going on. You're kind of aware of the seasons changing, things becoming a little bit more inward, a little bit more reclusive, and wanting to connect with family, wanting to connect with the people that mean the most to you, because we are kind of, hibernating, we're cocooning away, and we want to make sure that those we love are close by and that they're all right. So there is a real unique feeling to Halloween, and if you're not attuned to that yet, all you have to do is just take note of how you feel each day in October. You can even start now, and then just see if you spot any little changes. Maybe it's just the direction of the wind, maybe it's the colour of the clouds, maybe it's a certain silence that's outside. Those are the little changes that tell you that veil is thinning. So when this happens, our ancestors typically draw closer, because we're attracting the spirit world to Earth for kind of a night of conversation, respect and honour. However, my own personal feeling is that I don't like to disturb anybody. I'm happy if they're happy where they are, but I always like to at least have that offering if they can feel that the veil is thinning too. And this is the closest time where we can just kind of, if I get a piece of paper, kind of touch, and we can feel the energy. But there's still that plane here, there's still that barrier, but we can still touch, we can feel one another. Then I think that's lovely. But for me personally, I like to think of my ancestors being in a really happy place and not needing to come back here. As far the way I see it is they've done their time. They deserve to live with their spirit in a very peaceful place. But this is what Samhain is all about. It's about offering that. It's about bringing ancestral energy back, and not just necessarily about talking or wanting to talk to the dead or invite spirits in, but it is honouring that person's legacy. It is honouring those before you who, think about it, at this time back then, who did work the fields, who did harvest, who worked tirelessly. That was just for the basics to get life right. It's very important to show your respect for that. And as modern world is now, we don't really see it in the same way. But for any of you that still have maybe a farming connection, for example, you will have a really strong understanding of the land and what it can provide for you, and you'll probably want to say your thanks to those who did that beforehand with much more basic tools than what we have now. So when we have this fire festival, of course fire is a very integral part of Halloween. So big bonfires would be lit, for example, and this is to cleanse and clear the energy, making way for the new year. It's also a very, very strong time for anything in regards to divination, but it is a dark time as well, so just bear that in mind. Try to be mindful not to invite any spirits or any entities that are maybe stuck between worlds or maybe are negative and can pull you down. It's good to be aware of this, okay, and just have that level of protection there. It is very, very good for divination, very, very good for spell work, shadow work, anything that feels particularly dark that you want to get rid of, then this is a good time to be doing this as well. So what they used to do was they'd have a massive, massive community bonfire. So this would be like the one thing people would gather around, and it would be lit to cleanse the lands, and from this fire you would then light the one in your home from an ember from that, to mark the Celtic New Year. So it's welcoming newness into your life. It is welcoming the light and the warmth that you need to get through the winter months. As I did mention earlier, it does belong to the zodiac sign of Scorpio, which does look after the world of magic, occult practice, sex, intimacy, death, and the importance of transition from one life to the next. And it's a very, very loyal sign, and Scorpios tend to see life and death as an honour. To have that experience is a very honourable thing. So when we kind of put all of these things together, just as a general little nutshell, you can understand how important this Sabbath actually is. So I'm going to grab now another book which I thought would be quite nice to look at. Let's see what we have here. So this is Druidry by Emma Orr, and as I've mentioned, you can plan your rite around the full moon. That's what she said in here. Livestock would that would not last the winter would be slaughtered with ritual thanks. Of course, Samhain is like the last of the harvest festivals as well. Over the months of September, October, I don't know if many of you around the Essex ways have been stuck behind tractors, but I know I have been, and they are certainly grabbing the last of that harvest so that we can, make sure that we have everything we need for the winter time. And with this, we understand that the winter is very much a bit of a barren time. So it's important to make sure that we stock up. It's important to make sure we have enough wood for the fire, we have heat, we have warmth, and just the basics that we need to kind of get through. Now, a lovely thing that I have noticed in this book, and I like how she's worded it, is at this time those who have died during the year are honoured and gifts are given with love and thanks. And that's exactly what this is. We see a lot of sources out there saying, Halloween celebrates the dead. I think that can be a little bit misconstrued sometimes. We're not celebrating that these people have died, but we are celebrating the life and the legacy that they left behind. And in keeping those parts of that alive, and by doing it justice, maybe it's just we do one thing that ancestor used to do, we carry it on and we pass it down to the next person. That is a real honour to the legacy of that loved one. And that's really what this is about. And of course, there's no Sabbath complete without a big big feast. Now, if you read some of the old Irish mythology tales, the Hall of Tara, big feasting hall, banquets, tables and tables of food. All the warriors would come and eat all of their favourite things, and you know, there'd be lots on offer, lots of selection. Samhain is also a time of feasting. So what you would do is traditionally set a space at the table for those who are no longer here. Remember, we're inviting their energy because the veil is thin, but you don't have to be like, you better come back from wherever you are and sit with me. It's an invitation to them and then alone. But, and we will get to this, when you are setting your ritual, setting your space, protection is very important because we don't want to invite anything in that isn't meant to be there. In the book of Merlin's Magic and Enchantment, we're going to have a little look and see what's in here. I just thought this would be nice. I want to try and cover all of the Celtic groups, not just one or two of them. So let's just see our celebrations for the ancient ones. Let's have a little look. Oh, this is very interesting actually. So each new year upon this earth shall have its start upon the first full moon of Scorpio's reign within the heavens, and this festival is called Samhain. For now are the gates of the other world flung open, and the shades of the dead have come amongst us, and many have gathered to tell the tales of old on wintry nights. So too have we offered blessings for those who have passed before us through the veil of mist. By this time have we sown our seeds within the earth for good crops to grow, and we have stored our crops from the harvest which is past. We have gathered forth our cattle, and slain those beasts whose meat we need to give us strength and sustenance, and we have shared our provisions with the weary and the needy, and with those in grief who mourn the newly dead. And for an omen have some made marks upon certain gathered stones, and have them hurled far into the bonfire flames, which light the heavens by night. And then, as dawn followeth the eve, have they henceforth sought the stones within the ashes of the fire, for to seek their special fortune as an omen in that place. Also at this time we have sung our praises to Dagda, Lord of life and death, and to Morrigan, great queen of phantoms and demons, and also to the ancient departed ones who have gone before. So if you want a couple of deities to work with, Dagda, he is the general god of all, and Morrigan, goddess of war. You can call upon their energy at this time if you want to. So we also know that people dress up and carve pumpkins and go knocking on doors. There's lots of regionalised variations of how this is done in Ireland. So I don't really want to generalise because I know that certain counties do things a little bit differently. Typically speaking, it was turnips that they carve, and when you carve a turnip, it looks terrifying. And you can see why. They're trying to ward off evil entities. They're trying to spook things that spook us, as it were. The dressing up as well is to kind of protect yourself from any ghostly entities that aren't maybe good for you. It's about, in a way, confusing the other world and also inviting it. And it might sound like a little bit of a paradox, but that is why that was traditionally done. It was so everyone kind of blends into this one thing, this one night of that veil being very thin and the other world being welcomed. You couldn't tell who was a ghost and who was a person, and it's all just sort of amalgamated into one thing. There are also regional dishes that were cooked all over Ireland. There's all tons of variations of them, which I won't go into because we didn't have that. It is very much a traditional thing. I've noticed more in the south, whereas my family are more north and lowland Scotland, so we didn't really have that part of it. But I have been doing some reading and some research, and I can tell you that there are traditional Halloween dishes that you can look up. Just type into Google Irish Halloween foods or Irish Halloween meals and they will come up for you, and maybe you can give them a try. But for now, we're going to cut this video because I think 20 minutes of your time is more than long enough. Hopefully you've got a little bit of a better understanding of what Samhain is all about and how to celebrate it. And the part 2 video will be the ritual. So I'll try to make this very basic and I will give you some different suggestions. Maybe you don't have certain things. Don't worry, we can make it work. I will see you in part 2.